doctors, and this is not the first time. I recollect about this time last year there was a strike in the heat of the first wave of the coronavirus pandemic, and then they called it off. I mean, they suspended it, but then again it's come up again and again and again, and the latest was on Friday when the National Industrial Courts ordered the doctors back to work pending determination of the suit. Hours later, the doctor said, no, we're not having that. We are going to continue with the strike. And yesterday on Channels TV, we had the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Achike, saying, well, you have to go back to work while we continue negotiations. My name is Ogbevire. This is Nigerian for Protracted, where we have the region's biggest conversation. Let's hear what the Minister of Labour said, and then my guests will join me over the phone. Achike Chude, who's been following this, by the way, all the way from Lagos. Stay tuned.
I saw where a young man was saying, oh, they have appealed, they asked their lawyers to appeal, do stay of execution, and the rest of them. I've been speaking with their lawyer, Femi Falana, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem to me that it's only Femi Falana that is doing this case. Because I spoke with him on Thursday before they went to court, and I know what we discussed, and I know what we agreed on. Only for them not to do so, received another advice from another lawyer. I told him no. I'd already discussed with Femi, and that this is what we agreed on.
So that was the voice of Minister of Labour, who's also a doctor, Achike. And, I'm thinking, initially they were just having these meetings, the federal government and the NARD leadership, but taking them to court. Achike, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Achike.
Yeah.
So the part that, the government takes them to the industrial court, do you think that that's strengthened their resolve to keep asking for what they believe is rightfully theirs?
No, well, I think it's unfortunate this matter has dragged on for so long, and this is something of extreme importance. It borders on the health of Nigerians. So you would expect that the government will do everything, pull out all the stops to ensure that they respond to the yearnings of these workers. Obviously, that has not happened. And in the midst of the discussion, the matter was brought before the court. Look, when you are looking for a solution to a problem, you don't go to court. In fact, in most cases, when you have a crisis, for instance, you have a problem, even between states in this country, sometimes the politicians themselves, there is this term they use, we are looking for a political solution, because they realize that the problem is political, and so you don't want to inflame passions, any further. I remember the problem over the littoral states, where some states were saying that they were entitled to some oil fields in the country and all that, and then eventually the federal government took the matter. The matter was taken out of the court and settled politically. Unfortunately, that is what we expected would have happened. They were already talking. In fact, at the time, the president himself was said to have been involved in the discussions with the doctors. And when the president brings the full weight of his authority and his influence on such a negotiation, you want to believe that everything would be settled immediately. So obviously, it was not. So the government, in the midst of the discussion, the government went to court, and then the court now took that decision. Now, the essence, I think that decision puts the doctors on, puts them under pressure, because now there is a moral issue, on whether to obey a court order or not obey a court order. No matter how grievous they feel, some of us cannot make the argument that court orders cannot be or should not be obeyed, because when the government is at the receiving end, we also berate them. But I think the government is guilty of acting in bad faith. And so I think the doctors see this as a blackmail after having discussed with us for months. And then all of a sudden, you pull the rug from under our feet, and then you break faith with us and you go to court. It becomes a problem. And, so that is as it is.
Okay, so the minister also said that he's been speaking with their lawyer, Femi Falana. Are you with me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so The minister was also saying that he's been speaking with their lawyer, Femi Falana, but unfortunately, it looks like the other lawyers of the case. Should the minister be speaking to their lawyer at this time?
Well, you see, I think it is disingenuous of the minister to quote Femi Falana, and to tell us publicly that he knows what they discussed with, and what they discussed with is at variance with what the doctors are doing. So it is either he tells us exactly what they discussed with, or he keeps quiet about it because we were not there. And don't forget that the minister is also a politician. This is the same minister that said that that we have enough doctors. If doctors want to flee this country, let them, because we have enough doctors. Of course, that was a clear untruth. It wasn't truthful, because the World Health Organization requirement, patient to doctor requirement, or standard is one doctor to 100 patients. But in Nigeria, it is one doctor to 5,000 patients, or sometimes 6,000 patients, one doctor. So it tells you that Nigeria is grossly, when it comes to, doctor-patient ratio, that we are exceedingly lacking behind. And so for him to come out publicly to say that we have enough was not truthful. And so when a minister of that level makes that kind of statement, any other thing he says, it becomes a suspect. So we cannot exactly say what we don't exactly know what he discussed with Femi Falana. But don't forget that Femi Falana has become an institution in this country when it comes to the legal profession and the civil society activities. He's a man, that is very well respected, and that he's not going to be cowed by, the doctors. I know his disposition towards such things, and so I do not believe that that the doctors would have an agreement with Femi Falana and then do something contrary. I don't think that is possible. But Falana himself can come out and tell us exactly what he agreed with the minister. He cannot, make an agreement even on behalf of the doctors without the say-so or the agreement of the doctors themselves.
Okay, so Achike, another matter in this is the Minister of State for Health, Dr. Olorunibe Mamora, saying that it's wrong for the doctors to continue their strike despite the court order and the intervention of the president. He expressed federal government's readiness to engage the striking doctors in fresh talks. What do you make of that?
Look, this is frustrating. Look, put yourself in the position of these doctors and put yourself in the position of the Nigerian state, of the Nigerian nation. We cannot afford to toy with the welfare of doctors. The two most important institutions in this country, in any country. I mean, when Bill Gates came to Nigeria, he was talking with the media. He mentioned two sectors that are critical to national revival, to national growth, national progress, and all that, and stability. He talked about the healthcare, sector, and he talked about education. These two are key if you want to build a country. And so we are playing with the health, with the lives of our people. And we all know why this is happening. The president went on one of his frequent health. People say health tourism abroad some time ago, spent how many weeks and came back to Nigeria. The Minister of Health, I'm sure he does that, and his people also, his dependents, also go abroad for treatment, and the political elites in the country. For as long as we continue to allow that situation, we're going to have the rot that we have in the health sector. For as long as we continue to allow them send their children abroad, our educational system is not going to work, properly. So these are some of the issues, and so, yes, the president intervened. What is the nature of the president's intervention? Like I told you, when the president of this country intervenes with the doctors, it is something that, should bring about immediate results. The fact that it has not brought about, that result, it clearly indicates that there were no fundamental agreements that were agreed upon, But again, they are looking for money. It's about money. How much did the government invest in putting a rail line? And what process did it take putting a rail line, from Nigeria to Niger Republic? They have told us that they are going to, refurbish the refinery in Port Harcourt. How many billions of dollars, not naira, were put into that infrastructure? is that at this stage much more important than the healthcare, infrastructure of Nigerians. So there are no two ways. The money is there. If they had the political will, they would have resolved this problem since, a long time ago. This is the 5th strike after COVID that the country is going through. And like I said, it can never be a win situation for Nigeria because we don't have enough doctors. There was a survey not too long ago, that indicated that 8 out of every 10 doctors in this country wants to leave Nigeria. And we were also entertained. We saw also that when a maybe an agency acting on behalf of the Saudi Arabian government set up shop in Nigeria, where they were recruiting medical health personnel, and they took the intervention of the DSS to ensure that the whole thing was brought to an end. So we are going to lose ultimately at the end of the day. We are not going to have people to treat us. So it is not in our interest to treat these doctors shabbily. Too many of them have left this country. In the state of Atlanta, is it Atlanta or alone, or Texas? I was liably informed that there are over 5,000 Nigerian doctors in one state in Atlanta. In one state, in the whole of Lagos State, with the 22 million estimated population that we have, we do not have up to 5,000 doctors in our public healthcare infrastructure in Lagos State. So this is where we are. All over Nigeria, for a population of about 250 million, we have about 35,000 doctors. Some of them are not practicing. Many of them are doing business. So we can't afford to. But the government is not in a position, to bluff the doctors. We are not in a position because people are going to die, and people are dying, and people have been dying, and people will continue to die.
And this is something that
Mamora... It's a national emergency, and the government is not treating it as an emergency.
No, because
they do not have a stake.
But Mamora is pushing it back to the doctors, and he's saying that people are dying. That's the truth. How do you bring back people who've passed on as a result of the doctors not being at their duty posts? Some of these issues do not qualify for national strike, as some of them are not national issues. And of course, he mentions the oath of office as doctors. He mentions the oath of office as doctors, and he says that that's their primary duty, to save lives.
Sorry, again? I didn't get
He says the primary duty of doctors is to save lives.
Okay, and what is the primary duties of the government? To provide for the welfare of the citizens and the security of the state of the citizens. So you have the permanent responsibility of doctors in the first place that is daily being sabotaged by the insensitivity of government, by providing basic necessities. Over 15 doctors have died as a result from COVID because they were not properly equipped. Are these doctors not human beings? Do they not have colleagues that are also looking at the dangers that they are daily involved in? How many of them have PPEs, proper protective equipment? Even when they were engaging in the fight against COVID-19, how many of them are adequately compensated for the work they do? The other day we were scandalized to learn that the doctors are being paid hazard allowance of 5,000 naira. Even at the time, the Minister of Health didn't even know how much the doctors were being paid hazard allowance, and he's a medical doctor. Let us be fair. This is not about sentiment. Let us be fair. If we want, our country to move forward, we want our doctors to be, at least, be happy enough to do the job. And it's not as if they don't want to do the job. They are frustrated doing the job.
Achike, but the people are also calling for fairness on the part of the doctors. They're saying that we know that when we run under the cause of this strike, we're also at the receiving end. So what happens to us?
I know. Look, it is a difficult situation. I cannot justify any strike, especially at the level of doctors. But the thing about this strike is that when it started, and most other strikes in this country, the citizens themselves who are the receiving end tend to show support and solidarity with the striking workers. Whether you are talking about ASU anytime they're on strike, or doctors when they're on strike, and so on. Why? Because there's something the citizens understand. That if these doctors are not taking proper care of, they will leave. And if they leave, we have nothing. You understand? So they are asking the government, and they are pleading with the government, take care of these people so that they can take better care of us. That is what the whole thing is all about. So I think it is, it's just sanctimoniousness on, for the minister Mamora to talk about the critical critical role of primary duties of and responsibility of doctors when he also doesn't talk about, conveniently forgets the primary responsibility of government, to which he belongs to.
So it's lasted for 60 days now. Achike, which way do you see this going?
The more immediate dialogue, like I said, if they had wanted to resolve this matter, they would have resolved it. It didn't take long. What kind of appropriation? Do you think that the money for the railroad to build a rail line to Niger Republic was appropriated by National Assembly? Normally, National Assembly should appropriate such monies. It was not appropriated by National Assembly, but it was done anyway. So if they want to look for money, and then how much? About 5 billion for the rehabilitation of the Protracted refinery that has not produced one single crude, and every year they are spending billions of naira on the basis of expenses. Expenses for what? For a non-generating revenue entity. And it is so easy for them to do that. But when it comes to something that is critical to the life of Nigeria, to the lives of Nigerians, they don't respond because they are not interested. So I would expect seriously for the government to show more commitment, and to stop blackmailing these people. This is the 5th time they are going on strike. It is not easy for them to call out strikes. It takes a lot to call out a national strike. There's a lot of politics that goes into it, a lot of pressure on the doctors. But don't forget that this strike, and that's why it has lasted for so long, it's about their survival. Otherwise, we will be the ones to lose. We will lose. They will leave. The only ones that can remain in Nigeria are the ones that don't have opportunity to leave. So if the government recognizes that, then the government must make necessary compromises. And it's that compromise I expect to be done, most especially by the government. Because these people are the victims of a system that is not working. While it is the government that has perpetrated the injustice that has gone on, not this government, other governments. So it's not just about this government. We are not getting the best deal as citizens of this country. There's no doubt about that, because our country has been mismanaged over the years. So we expect the government to act like a government, act in accordance with the Constitution, provide for the welfare of the Nigerian people, and part of that welfare is to ensure that our doctors return to work and that you make things much easier for them and better for them.
All right. Thank you very much, Achike Chude, for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Commercial has to play now, and then lines will be open. At this point, what would you like to see? Would you like to see the talks continue on one side? Would you like to see the federal government show more commitment to ending the strike? Or would you like the doctors, based on moral obligation, to just, let's get back to work, then we continue the talks? We're Nigerian Info. My name is Ogbevire. Stay tuned.
of activities to mark our 10th anniversary, Nigeria Info FM is calling for entries from secondary school students in Port Harcourt. In not more than 100 words, write an original and creative piece on the topic, Why Basic Education is Important for Nigeria's Development. Send your entry indicating name, age, and school to socialph@nigeriainfo.fm. Entries close September 24th. Just so you know, the best 5 entries will be published on all our platforms, while the winner will be announced on the 1st of October 2021 during the online event marking the anniversary. So, join the conversation. Pick up your pen and get writing. For more information, check at Nigeria Info PH on Facebook and Instagram.
This is the Morning Crossfire on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
20 minutes to 9. It's a Monday morning. Thank you for joining the conversation on Nigeria Info. My name is Ogbevire. Doctors have vowed to continue their strike, and the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, is saying no, get back to work. Obey the industrial court order, which was given on Friday. Go back to work, and then we can continue negotiations. That is the foundation of the matter this morning. I spoke with Achike Chude, public affairs analyst, who joined us via the phone. Is based in Lagos, based in Abuja. This morning. 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003, 0817-923-0009 are the numbers to call. We're live on Facebook at Nigeria Info PH. Basil Kiaka writes in, says, federal government is not being sincere here. Instead of asking them to go back to work first while the discussion is going on, there should be some sort of hope given to the striking doctors before asking them to return, because they need the money to survive. The welfare is at stake here. Please, for your government, do something instead of asking them to return. Mike is in Rumukushi. Good morning, Mike.
No.
Yes.
Federal government plays every strong in this country. Don't understand why your own, nobody is taking your own. Nobody is talking about your own. The welfare of others, you're not even talking about it. Anyhow they want to just live their life, they should just live their life like that. But you're asking them to come back to work. So what provision have you made for them? Are you going to change the situation now? Or you go to court or you talk to their lawyer? I don't understand the meaning of see, there are some positions that some persons are not, even whether you're learned or you're not learned, you're not supposed to occupy that position. As far as I'm concerned, there's not even supposed to occupy that position at all. Because you don't even know what a doctor is. In fact, he didn't even read anything next thing. Honestly. You're going to court to tell them to come back. What provision are they for them? Even if they come back now, we just still continue suffering what they are still suffering previously. And then do us.
All right. Thank you, Mike. 0817-923-0002. We're live on Facebook, and we have some comments here. Let me read them. Fango says, good morning. Chris Ngige, Minister of Health, are they not receiving their salaries at the end of the month? They should do the needful and pay the resident doctors their salaries and save people's lives. Did you watch how Chris Ngige was answering questions yesterday on Channels TV? I did. Edward Okajile, I'm no longer interested in their incessant strike. Let the federal government allow the states handle this matter of doctors so that they would learn a bitter lesson. What does that mean? Tayelolu Olusegun, doctors should learn how to contribute to the development of this country. My advice for them is to go back to their duty posts. Then what happens about the demands they've been making? Baruse Ngene one says the doctors know what they're doing. Many of them have their private hospitals, so the longer the strike, the more they get better patronage from the masses. Blessed is Nalu. Let's hear you, Blessed. Good morning.
Good morning, my sister. The resident doctors strike, they are agitating between them and the federal government. They do the needful. Federal government to do the needful for them to solve this problem amicably. It's up to 2 months now they are doing on the strike. And besides, when you go to something like teaching hospital, you won't see any nurse give IC or setting drip line to patients. It's only medical doctor that can set line or IC injection to patients. So check now. If so far there is no doctor,
did you say doctors? Did you say doctors? Hold on,
no, I beg, we are begging the government to do this thing like the way they're supposed to do it. And besides, they should introduce discipline. If they introduce discipline, the discipline will start from the government to the expert to the employer also.
All right.
When there is discipline, you cannot strike anyhow. When there is discipline, you will pay your employees when you're supposed to pay them.
Paz Nobele.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Good morning.
It is quite unfortunate that Nigerian doctors will go to fight for more than 60. Why is it that we not recognize, we don't really hear in Nigeria is not recognized? How can it be that the other wearing a nation and then took over more than 6 months to look for his ministers? We went and took people like this Achike. What is it they're going to offer Nigeria? The kind of such they should not allow us die all.
All right, David is in Yenagua. Good morning, David West.
Yes, good morning, Madam Eno. In fact, my own take on this issue is whether the federal government is at fault or the resident doctors are at fault. The end point of it is that it is Nigerians that are suffering. So it's my own passionate appeal to the resident doctors to still go back to their duty while they are still negotiating with the federal government.
Okay, so David West, if the negotiations don't go the way they wanted to, how would that conversation end? Because now they're back to work, and when they go back to work, the government sort of has the upper hand, right?
Of course.
So they go back to work, then the government doesn't agree to their demands, so continue to stall. Then what happens?
No, I don't know if there will be any time immediately after this administration, an administration that will come in front. If there will be any time that you will not hear doctors have gone on strike because of one thing or the other.
Is it because government will continue to be insensitive?
I'm coming. Let me make my point now. If that kind of situation will still occur and occur again, it then calls for us to say that at the end of the day there must be an agreement. Because if the doctors say government has refused to abide by what they have told them,
by an agreement,
will doctor go on perpetual strike? They to their compassionate.
But you said there should be an agreement. The agreement's on the table right now.
The agreement is even the federal government too, for God's sake, must keep to the agreement. It's a common principle of law that parties to an agreement must abide by the agreement. So federal government should be careful with the kind of agreement they are going into too. They should not accept an agreement that they know tomorrow they will find it difficult not to keep. They too are causing another problem for us.
All right.
The bottom line is it is you and I that suffers for it. Then please now, finally, I have a dissenting opinion with your guest in his analysis by trying to make comparison with other critical infrastructure spending to that of health. I mean, they are all important. If the refineries are working, it will be to the benefit of even the health workers too. So
if the health system is working, it will be to the benefit of everyone else. In fact, I think everyone else needs health more than any other thing. Health first. Christian is in Rupoko. Good morning, Christian.
Good morning, the listeners. I think I want to a situation where we can look at these issues and try to balance the issues. Because it's as if we're always calling out on the federal government. The doctors don't have their own shortcomings. You understand? This one put, yes, I'm not saying they shouldn't be looked after, but you can also agree with me that most of them have their private clinic and they are consultants to other people. And that's why they can hold the government to ransom. I've come and said, we were even talking about Nigerian doctors. Yes, I know, have you visited the hospital and see their negligence, level of negligence?
Well, so there's a hospital, Christian,
and they're doing well in themselves, in their own professional duties.
There's a hospital.
Most of them don't do well. So we should also, as we are blaming the government, we should also blame them, because most of them are, even if the strike is going on, they are still working in other private places any money, and they are holding the government to ransom. So if we must build this country, everybody must contribute genuinely, and not every talk about the government, calling out for the government as the government is not responsible. Are they also responsible as?
Okay, so Christian, thank you for calling. So this is what it is. If the doctors are not responsible, don't they have a hospital's management board? Don't they have checks and balances? Why are they not effecting those? Whether you like it or not, the doctors are still employees. If an employee is misbehaving and the bosses are okay with it, then it's on the bosses. Yeah, the employee shouldn't misbehave, but that's where we have checks and balances. That's where we have disciplinary action. That's where we have monitoring and evaluation. Temple is calling after that, JJ, and we're done with the phone calls. Good morning.
Good morning, distinguished channel. And is it proper for one to enter an agreement you know you will never come to terms with? Is it proper? And when we talk about doctors taking oath of allegiance to protect or to save lives, doctors, President Buhari, didn't he take one? And Nigerians not dying? And if they continue to do all this procrastination and be lackadaisical over the request of the doctors, distinguishing for me, if the government on their own cannot go to attend to the demand of the doctors while on strike, even though they reduce strike, they will not do anything. They will never do anything. That is my take. Thank you.
All right, JJ, let's hear you on this matter. Good morning.
Yeah, hello, good morning. For me, I think the doctors should be able to obey the court order, because it's a normal thing. They don't even need the court order to do that. Normal labor practice shows that if you're in talk with the management, then you should not be on strike, so that at the end of the day they can talk well. It's not about who take advantage or who doesn't take advantage. If the talk don't go well, just one call, everything will shut down. So they even have more bargain power when they call off the strike. It's like, okay, fine, this is what we want. Or then if you don't want it, then we'll call out our member. Then the government will be forced to do so. I think they need public sympathy right now. To say, okay, fine, we have called off the strike. Let's talk continue. But if we don't do this, then it means we'll call again. Then they will get the public sympathy to say, okay, the government is not trusted. But for the fact that they have gotten a court order to tell them to go back to work, which is not supposed to be so, I think they should obey, then talk should continue. That at the end of the day, everything will be fine. I hope so. All
right. Well, hope again. It's not a strategy. Let me read some messages and we wrap this up. The resident doctor strike is now in its 60th day. I kind of just start to imagine the burden on those who've tried to access healthcare in several places. But we have Joe from Port Harcourt writing in, says, I believe this issue has turned political. The NARD president is making this a personal case against Ngige. They've been given a chance to go settle the issue at the table if they have all the facts you're reading out. I also believe your guest, Achike Chude, is very biased against the president and his government. Okay. Lucky says, if the primary duty of doctors is to save lives, what is the primary duty of government to its citizens? The doctors need to be alive to save others. The time is near when you will find very few doctors in Nigeria. Then Ngige will be forced to hire expatriate doctors to man our hospitals. Nobody would like to be attended to on an operating table by a doctor who is thinking of his expired house rent or unpaid fees. If let the doctors be paid. If there's money for rail to Maradi, there's money for doctors. Ngige is helpless, says Okparanta Ndidi from Obele. He finds himself in a government that does not care about the health of the people. Not even the National Hospital is working. President travels abroad and every other government official travels abroad for medical reasons. How can our doctors be paid? APC is a misfit. Please ask Chris Ngige to pay the outstanding salaries of the doctors, stop the case against them, then look into other policies affecting them, then persuade them to return to work with further negotiations. F. Young, the headmaster, and Rumelumeni. Chidi says, are there other countries in the world the doctors embark on strike? I don't understand this our country. Doctors on strike in Nigeria for more than 2 months now. I love some Nigerians. When judgments against the FG, even if it bothers our national security, they will cast aspersion on the government to obey. Tell how courageous the judges are, but it's against judgment. It is murdered. Disobedience is encouraged. The last time I checked, Dr. Ngige is a doctor too. Stan, is he practicing? That's another question. It's pathetic when people say all doctors have private hospitals. That's why they're on strike. So they'll get patronage. The consultants, who are the ones that own private hospitals, most times are actually still working. They're not on strike. The bulk of the doctors are resident doctors. They're the ones on strike. Doctors in River State are the least paid in Nigeria. No promotion in 8 years, and the governor has not listened to them on welfare issues. The doctors sent that in. And oh yes, they ought to have checks and balances, but those who are supposed to enforce it are deeply involved in corruption. Our problems are enormous. Lola sent that in from Port Harcourt. So are we now the problem? Does it come back to us then? Does it come back to us then? So some of the things that the doctors are asking for, paid death benefits, hazard allowance, death benefits of those who died during the COVID pandemic, salary arrears, among other things, before they can consider ending the strike. So here we are now. You get saying go back to work. Federal government saying go back to work. The doctors are saying, well, we're going to appeal the judgment of the National Industrial Court. We will remain on strike. Again, people remain on the receiving end. My name is Ogbevire. We'll keep our eyes on the ball and see if there's any shift on either side. Good morning.